Writing community, we are back for another episode as we are that much closer to episode 50. Welcome back to Writing with Authors. My name is Vincent A. Lancey, and today we are welcoming up a two-time published author all the way from Utah to the show. He's got his third book on the way. We're going to learn all about it. I want to thank everyone involved for getting us that much closer to 50 episodes, as this YouTube channel has now passed 100 subscribers, and I describe that as harder than to get 1,000 on Instagram, this YouTube process, but I'm very honored to now continue the show today with David York. He's going to talk about his writing advice, along with his three books, Entrusted, Riveted, and his latest, The Gift of Lift, Harnessing the Power of Stewardship to Elevate the World. Here's a little bit about the new book. While each uniquely different and diverse, every steward builds on two essential building blocks: transcendence and investment. They know what calls to them, and they know how they are going to engage themselves with a call to create lives full of purpose, meaning, and impact. I think that's amazing here, David. Imagine a world filled with people whose first question isn't what's in it for me, but what's in it for we. David, who is also a lawyer and certified wealth planner, has turned over 25 years of insights and understanding into tools, resources, and processes to help people put words to their why so they can bring purpose to their plans and increased happiness in their lives. We have an incredible show ahead of us, and as you could guess, we have a preview to that entrepreneur show. We're going to go ahead and get David scheduled for that show to talk all things his law firm. But for today, we have three books. We're talking all about them. David York, thank you very much for joining our community.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent. Been looking forward to it. Appreciate the opportunity.
Likewise, please introduce yourself to our incredible audience, and then we're going to dive right into book talk.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm an attorney. I'm also a CPA, so it tends to make me two of the most boring people in the world wrapped into one. But for the last 25 years, I've worked with people on two of the certainties in life: death and taxes, right? But in the process of doing that, I've been fortunate enough to work with many entrepreneurs, closely held businesses, family businesses, wealth creators. So I've worked with billionaires to business owners, celebrities, sports figures, and over the time, you see certain habits or tricks or ideas or thoughts of those who really are the most impactful. So it's really fun, dealing with people and seeing how they approach life.
I love that. Very ambitious. And that's what led to your book. But I have to ask, did you always want to write a book? Was being a published author something you always wanted?
No, not at all. In fact, I didn't actually grow up much of a reader myself. That said, I love history and I love story. And so over the years, I started reading more and more, love nonfiction, and love asking the question of why. And but no, that they had no real thoughts of being an author. I think most of my junior high and high school teachers would be shocked to know that I wrote a book, much less read one.
All right. Well, then what led to this book, the first book, I should say? What led to book number one?
Yeah, it was interesting. So as I mentioned, I've done tax and estate planning, and over the years, I saw a lot of failed wealth transfer. I saw addictions fed. I saw heirs stripped of purpose. I saw inheritances squandered, families destroyed. And so I saw a lot of the problems. So one of the questions, and it was my partner and I, we just sat down and we had been working on this for years. And we said, look, what are the key characteristics of families that actually do successfully transfer wealth? So it's kind of like psychology. It's interesting to study all the dysfunction and all of the problems and the issues, but similar to a positive psychology standpoint, what are the key disciplines of those who do successfully transfer wealth? What do they have in common? And so that first book, Entrusted, was really our summation of what we saw are the key disciplines of families that successfully transfer wealth. So it was to answer a question.
Giving back through your skills, through your knowledge. I'm going to shout out Joe Diachara in New York, the CPA, the entrepreneur with the CPA calls himself, has books on S Corp, has books on money myths. It's such a huge service because, and I'm sure you can agree, I love your take, financial literacy isn't very common. I think a lot of mistakes come from that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I do think structure and strategy are really important. I will say this, though. I think so often we focus on how and what. And I really think the fundamental questions are why and who, and I think that that's the number one thing we found in the families that successfully transfer wealth. They know who they are, what they value, and what they believe. So they have clarity and purpose, and then that drives everything else. And so I think we have to be careful that structure is important. By the end of the day, it's skeletal system. And so that's really one of my primary messages, is help people understand why first, and then drive into all that other stuff.
And then piggybacking off that book, you went to book 2 and now book 3. Again, this book, The Gift of Life, Harnessing the Power of Stewardship to Elevate the World. When is this book coming out?
Actually, it's out. It came out June 6th, so it's been out for a week and a half now as we're talking.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's really on the concept of stewardship, and again, based on the experience I have with a client.
Incredible, putting your experiences out there. That's the goal. One of the goals of my shows, I should say, giving back through our stories to help make others' journeys a little bit more smooth. Do you have any plans for a 4th book?
No, but I didn't have any plans for a second or a third either. So,
Okay.
I think it's funny. I actually had a client, or I was talking with someone the other day, and he's like, "Oh, I just want to be an author. I want to be an author." And I'm like, to me, successful authors don't want to write a book. They want to answer a question, especially on the nonfiction side. And so, I think it starts with having, it's about knowing what the world needs to know, and then figuring out why you're the right person to tell it. And so, if something comes along that I feel like the world needs to know, and I'm the person to tell them, then I might have another one. But no, these are all born out of what I saw as answers to questions that needed to be asked.
Very well put. Be sure to stick around to the end of the episode. We are going to find out where to find these books. But first, we have to get some writing advice from today's incredible guest. What are 2 pieces of advice you can offer our community of writers?
Yeah, I would say, again, I think the very first one is to understand with clarity, what does the world need to know? What is it that the world, or at least the people who read your book, what do they need to know? And then why are you the best person to answer that? And this latest book just started with a why question for me. And so sometimes you see something in life that's remarkable or unexpected. So for me, this was really just a culmination of me answering that question. I think on fiction, again, it's a similar process. What does the world need to know? And then using story to convey that message. But if you don't have a why, then I think it's really hard to write a compelling book.
Very well put again. You're on fire here. Same thing happened with me. The last books I went to answering questions. How do people improve their mental health? I collaborated with people all around the country to put together the book for older students, Mr. Lancy Talks Mental Health, and the elementary school book, Mental Health Week. All my books have come out of my passion, my drive, as you're saying, my why. I'm looking forward to the future where my company matures quite a bit more so I can make a difference on such a larger scale with my books. Please tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your books, and what's next.
Yeah, so easiest source is just to go to davidryork.com. It's got links to the books. I also did a TED talk on wealth. So it's just a quick little 11-minute. That honestly was as much work as writing the book. I remember
Right.
somebody telling me, if you want me to speak for an hour, give me a couple weeks notice. If you want me to speak for 10 minutes, give me 4 months. And so honestly, in some ways, the TED talk was even harder. But what it allows you to do is get down to the essence of your message. So I think that's really important. But yeah, all those resources can be found just at davidryork.com.
Be sure to head to davidryork.com, check out everything he has going on, and be on the lookout for an upcoming episode on That Entrepreneur Show. I am excited to learn all about his company. I'm sure there's a lot that went on behind the scenes, and we're going to learn all about it soon. We are at Writing with Authors and at Vincent A. Lancy on all social media. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week for Writing with Authors. David, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Anytime.